I think the carbon farming project is really exciting in that it's another revenue stream for our plantations. That makes us feel very positive about the future, and it gives us the ability to establish more plantations in the area and create more jobs.
The carbon farming project with 141 is a conversion from short rotation to long rotation. It's basically 141 getting carbon revenue for putting trees in the ground and having them for more than 25 years. In this case, 141 will keep them for 32 years or more.
We had approval to go ahead with the project in June. We started establishing the site in late July and early August 2020. That involved planting around 200,000 seedlings at the site, and that will sequester about 45,000 tonnes of carbon over the life of the project. The project fits in very well with what we already do, so as a plantation manager, the carbon credits are just for managing the plantation. Also, our plantations are certified to an international standard to be environmentally, socially and economically sustainable in the long term, so that fits very well with the carbon farming project.
As WEACT, we have invested a lot of time and resources in plantation forestry method. 141 and WEACT have a very strong relationship where we take on all the cost of developing the projects, whereas 141 focuses on their business of growing timber, and we share that revenue on an agreed percentage split. Our plantation forestry project runs under the plantation forestry method, which is managed by the Clean Energy Regulator. So we registered the project with the regulator and under the Emissions Reduction Fund. The process is quite complex. It requires a lot of in-depth understanding of the landscape. So we have a team that manages the GIS work. We then have to get all that paperwork organized, submitted to the regulator. Once the regulator is happy with that information, then they go on to register the project, which is then followed by subsequent audits. In Australia, there are two markets for the purchase of these credits. You have the Australian government-backed Emission Reduction Fund, and you have the secondary market where you have corporates who have decided to reduce their emissions. We have decided that we will go into the corporate sector and work with the corporate sector to reduce their emissions, and in this way monetize the credits.
The first success for us as a plantation grower was getting approval to go ahead with the carbon farming project. Also, the revenue that we produce from those carbon credits helps make our plantations economically viable.
The plantation project will sequester about 40 to 45,000 tonnes of carbon and will create an additional revenue for about $750,000 for 141. The payments work through with the issuance of these carbon credits that happen in a period of 3, 5 and 10 years. A lot of these plantations have been established on fallow land or land which was not previously being utilized properly. So in effect, a lot of the soil was getting degraded over time. When we put plantations in an area like that, we help retain that soil, we cool the temperatures around in the region.
On establishing a plantation, we are creating a lot more humus on top of the soil, so the leaves fall down, the small twigs fall down, and it builds an organic layer on top of the soil. That supports a whole lot of bacteria and fungi and beetles and worms. Also, the structure of the plantation is very good for birds. We've even had a bat colony take up residence in one of our plantations, and the pine cones are a great source of food for our yellow-tailed black cockatoos, which can often be found in abundance around our plantations. The carbon farming project will help support local jobs, so from site establishment, getting the site prepared for planting. It supports jobs in our nursery, growing the seedlings and getting them out to the site. Then we employ planting crews to get those seedlings in the ground, and we employ local contractors to undertake weed control for the first couple of years of those plantations. Later on in the life of the plantation, we'll do some thinning, so we'll employ some harvesting contractors and transport workers to get those logs to the mill, and eventually when the project is clear felled, those logs will be harvested by local contractors and taken to our local mills, supporting jobs there.
We employ roughly 300 people on site, but we also utilise a lot of local contractors. Being one of the largest employers in the region, this industry is vital for the local community. We process pine from our local pine plantations, and we produce mainly structural timber that goes into the housing market within Australia.
For any good carbon project, there has to be not just an environmental outcome, but also a social and economic outcome. Now, the economic outcomes are very clear. We have increased manufacturing, we have increased jobs, and also we have market activity through timber products. But also there's a very big social outcome, and that is it stops people from moving from small towns into larger cities. I think it will be a really good outcome for Australia and Australian resources that we have a larger plantation estate, a sustainable plantation estate, and that really can be done with the help of carbon finance and carbon credit revenue.
And I'm really excited about this carbon farming project, and we'd really encourage other plantation managers to take it up. It's just a great project.